Mirror sent the text and sat sideways inside her Mercedes Benz with the car door open. She unzipped her jogging suit jacket, letting her tits spill out on her halter top, and bent over purposely when Dick came around the car so that her cleavage crease was more appealing.
"Hi,"
she said, smiling, then jumped out the seat towards him aggressively, tits bouncing with each step. He sidestepped her to not be spotted in the open by security.
"Are you trying to fight me off? Get over it, Mr. Businessman. I'm here to do business, so let's negotiate the value of my service and send me on my way."
Mirror grew to know Benjamin as a no-nonsense kind of guy through text, but she felt something strange immediately without knowing she was dealing with the adolescent, perverted part of him. His palm pressed against her breast when she brushed past him, which might have been an accident, but she couldn't be sure.
"Wait, was that a sign of surrender?"
she asked. It was a mistake. Dick laughed.
"I'm not going to sue you. You have to stop dealing with those chicks who are only out for your money. I'm not like that,"
she said convincingly. There were others and people of the company in the parking lot smoking cigarettes who Mirror took notice of. She sidestepped back and forth, giving them a peep show as her girls bounced up and down. Dick called his roommate over to meet her, but he wasn't the same social butterfly as he was when upstairs. He said hi nervously, then scurried away. "I'll watch out for you from the window and keep an eye out for plumbing," said Malik. Once Mirror invited Dick into her car to get out of the indecisive November weather, he could not take his eyes off her tits.
"What are you looking at? They are huge, right? I told you, I get reductions frequently."
"Yes, they are, but why shrink them?" he said, confused. "Do you want to touch them?" She leaned over and grabbed Dick's hands and placed them onto her breast. She didn't let go and leaned back against the car door as he massaged them, aroused by their fullness. "Can I look at your nipple? They looked so unique online that I want to make sure they aren't made from an app in your phone." Her bra was so full, Dick had to fight his way to the bottom of her breast. He flipped her right breast out of it, then examined, but she took it from his grasp, then began sucking her own nipple while staring at Dick ambitiously. She then glanced over his head at her audience to rev her up even more. Dick's head got heavy from hypnotism, so he lunged at her while under her spell. Mirror whizzed her head around, hot from his aggression, breathing down her tits. With her flesh still exposed and unattended, Dick found it to be the perfect time to pull the blonde hair from around it and suck on it. While palming her cheekbone, he shoved his tongue down her mouth, and she responded by swirling her tongue around his, locking it and pulling him into her. The vehicle rocked back and forth as they fell into the steering wheel, honking the horn several times. His elbow brushed against the light switch, igniting the high beams which hit the bricks of the hotel's foundation, with neither one of them the wiser. Suddenly he snapped out of her trance and forced himself back into the passenger seat. They both sat panting, but him more than her. She smiled while putting her boob back into her bra. Dick tried straightening himself out, not wanting to appear monstrous, but it was too late for that, which she proved after signaling behind his head at the people outside of her vehicle.
"How long do you think they were standing there?"
She grinned. There were a few people standing by the car smoking cigarettes, glancing in every direction to play it off. But one guy stood right outside the passenger window against the hotel wall.
"Who is that? Do you know him?"
Mirror asked. "That's Poppy. Poppy is cool. He doesn't bother anybody, just says what's up and keeps it moving."
"He saw us, I'm sure of it,"
Mirror said excitedly. Dick looked around again at the people that were outside. The public lewdness made him filled with gratification from being so rebellious. He determined it to be the most exciting time he had since Benjamin brought him back into existence. Hours felt like minutes as sudden leaps at her tits and makeout sessions were interrupted by bouts of serious conversation and peeks at Poppy, who stuck around for the whole show. This time, Mirror shut the music off and gave a concerned look.
"I believe those who don't work shouldn't receive food stamps."
Dick felt attacked, but quickly held his temper back, remembering this was Benjamin's girl, not his. Besides, Dick didn't receive food stamps because he had money and was no longer subject to the labor camps, but still felt the pain someone else under the stereotype could feel. "Do you mean the company or the others seeking to live their lives by divine right?" The benevolence of Benjamin once again kicked into high gear to save him during the more intelligent conversations. Mira, however, didn't care about the specifics on which group received the stamps because she already knew that Benjamin was more than what everyone else thought he was. She just wanted the info from the inside, which it was rumored Benjamin had.
How do I know they are doing the right thing when they receive them?
She continued.
You do know those are my tax dollars, right?
Of course I do. They are my tax dollars as well, Dick replied, unfazed. And you make a valid point. Therefore, I must ask if you hold your local politician responsible when you put them in office to regulate that very same thing.
Clarify.
Mira was direct and relentless about finding out what was going on. What if an other asked you why you continue to work? Even more at a place you don't like and with people who don't like you? I mean, you have to be talking about the others here, not only because we're always claiming to be working on ourselves, but unless we have savings, we have to enter the food stamp program in order to get apartments. On the contrary, the most the company can receive is $15 in food stamps unless they have children. Any wage above the minimum, and they're booted out of the program. Mira wasted little time replying.
I tell them I have to work because I have bills and responsibilities.
But says who? And who determines what your responsibilities are? I'm sure it's not the people your tax dollars are employing. Government relief is a part of society that, contrary to popular belief, is not a stepping stone for people to eventually be weaned off of. It is an affordance continuously allocated to certain individuals by birthright. But whether you are working on your birthright or not is questionable. The only way you can know that is by looking at your natal chart. Dick was slipping in and out of consciousness while channeling the information. He knew nothing about astrology except for what he'd see in the newspaper while taking his shit. All of a sudden, he spoke it like a scholar as bits of memory being Benjamin revealed itself. Certainly you won't question the IRS and the government for taxation, but instead your concern is with the responsibility of those who receive the allocation. That is sort of plausible, but you have to understand the mechanics of foreign relationships and regional domination. The bureaucrats, not the government, don't care to regulate when recipients trade in their food vouchers for malt liquor when those residents reside in desert regions. The processed and preservative food in a Yemen establishment serve a different agenda than the delis in your region. Undernourished and impoverished hands enrich foreign investors. Then the Hysterian profits get shipped overseas. So you see, whether it's loose cigarettes or Pop-Tarts, none of it nourishes the recipient's souls like foods found in your 16-block radius.
Oh my God, that is terrible. And I want those bureaucrats held responsible.
Mira was genuinely frustrated by what she heard and disheartened by knowing she was seen as a bimbo blonde with big tits, but it was obvious her lavish lifestyle was not in touch with the ill-advised plans hovering over the urban cities.
Whether you decide that taking the culprits down is our next move or not, I am right beside you and willing to do whatever it takes until then. And I mean whatever.
Mira was expecting a quote of eccentric leadership usually sent to her in text, but was met with a lowered head and blank expression as Dick went back to his normal self. He loosened his belt buckle and pulled his penis out.
What are you doing?
Mira laughed.
Can't Poppy see us?
Poppy was still outside the passenger side on what must have been his 30th cigarette, but Mira leaned into Dick, arching her ass into the air while grabbing the soft cartilage anyway. Her pussy began moistening as he jerked Dick's cock and Poppy looked on nonchalantly smoking his stick. Poppy has been there this whole time, Mira, so I don't think we offended him at all.
Does Poppy have money?
She asked in all seriousness. I don't know. He might be on that methadone looking all spaced out like that, but you can't tell who has what these days. Mira took his response to mean Poppy will always have money because of his right to government relief, a form of reliable currency not found in job security on her side of the tracks. It enlightened her on the circle of life and how her ego blinded her from seeing things like Benjamin because she wasn't on the inside. She jerked harder because of how turned on she was by his mysteriousness, encouraged to stay in some of the Empire's most dangerous spots. She forced her face onto his now stiffened cock after looking at Poppy again, then wiggled her neck, adjusting her gag reflex. Once comfortable, she pushed down further, making her lips reach the bottom of Dick's shaft to accomplish her goal. The entire cock was now in her throat, so she wiggled once more to make sure he knew it, and remained there for a risky amount of time as the head of his dick pressed the back of her larynx. To her surprise, Dick found no compassion to stop her and held her face there until she grabbed at his arms to let her up for air. She took her position back at the driver's seat with a reddened face and wet pussy as he finally let her up.
Told you I can deep throat it. Now if a bitch ever gives you a problem doing that, you know who to come get.
Mira hoped she was persuading enough for him to bring the housing situation up, but couldn't be too sure, so she thought now was the perfect time to ask.
You said I needed 3 things to be verified for putting my friend to work in my home. What are they?
A health-related home inspection, proof of your income, and stake ID.
And you will have this carried out for us?
Yes, absolutely, Dick assured. Mira peeked at his cell phone as a text came through it. Security is on our floor about to do the count. Malik warned him that the time was near for them to abide by the state-imposed curfew. I don't want to go, but I have to, he told her with anger in his eyes. Mira, however, smiled to coax him rather than trigger his rage by putting on an act of being upset to stroke his ego.
It's okay, babe. I just had to come service my James Bond's balls for being so dutiful. That's how it's done in the movies, right?
She winked her eye and leaned over to press the passenger door handle for him. Dick reached his floor 4 minutes before 9, then opened his door while watching security begin their rounds at the other side of the hallway. Malik was on the phone and gave Dick's hand a slap while grinning from ear to ear in validation of his boy's club heroics. Dick smiled back and took a seat relieved from the sexual encounter while his roommate worked a chat room. He realized Malik had his own way of doing things that entailed a more distant approach, then lay on his bed pondering on the short spurts of intel he gave to Mira. How did he know Mira? What type of work was she trying to do from home? Who was her friend? And why did she need Benjamin to sign off on it? Who was Benjamin really? Chapter 10, May 7th. Dick Astral projected inside of the top floor of a building in the Midtown section of the Empire. He could not see himself, nor could he move. In front of him was a cracked window and a gloved man preparing to lift a sniper rifle. Once the nozzle reached the tip of the windowsill, he anchored down and put his open eye to the scope. Dick received the same visual of the target that the sniper did when looking into the crosshairs. Within the scope was the woman who whipped Red in the dream where they tried making it to Mama Love's house. The woman was distraught and terrified, running along the sidewalk holding someone's hand while looking side to side, either for assistance or some kind of way out of her predicament. The sniper then bounced around the target for what Dick thought to be a better shot, but the scope now had the person's hand she was holding in range. The preteen boy with curly hair was being dragged along in a tight grip, looking clueless on what the commotion was about. The sniper moved the bullseye around both of the bodies repeatedly in a circular motion. Then Dick was jolted into a foggy atmosphere in Atlantis, Georgia. He had no clue on how he knew he was there because according to his memory he never visited the place, but he just knew. He exited a vehicle that hummed and gave the vibe that it was alive. Colors of magenta, red, and pink danced around the shell of the car while the exterior breathed. Scales moved up and down it like it was opening its pores, receiving and giving information of some sort. Dick could feel the car like it was part of his body and knew that it was surely his despite how much he imagined it cost. He walked down a dirt path to a house and looked down at himself, seeing he was dressed in urban clothing, and held a bag in his hand which contained a gift. The door to the house was already open, so he stepped inside to the right and removed the gift from the bag, then opened it. It was a pair of Nike Air Jordan sneakers for babies, which he pulled out the box to put atop a glass multi-shelved wall unit. As he was about to make another step into the house, he sensed his shoes were untied. But while bending down to tie them, he noticed he wore the same brand sneaker as the ones he placed on the shelf, but on the wrong foot. Suddenly his awareness arose and he snapped out of the comfortable feeling that comes along when meeting up with someone you know. The incorrect footing made him frightened, so much that he motioned backward for the door, feeling it was a trap. The sound of a rifle being cocked was so close to his ear that he thought the gunman was right behind him, but he wasn't. Dick looked up and into what appeared to be a surveillance monitor and saw a sniper with a red and black lumberjack vest, and Dad had